I'll call this one 120 years of failure. Do you wish to continue with that failure? In my mind, I'm still 26 years old, thinking about designing the eye as a superior control system. The standard inputs, looking for the completely normal eye to be dynamic. That's a mathematical model of the completely normal eye. It has nothing to do with medicine. So that's what I wish to discover, and every reason to expect the fundamental eye to do that. Stop using errors. Stop thinking the eye is a camera. As soon as you think that way, you've lost everything. Conversation is completely impossible. So on that basis, I worked with Francis Young and most of the data, seeing all eyes as dynamic, not seeing eyes as incredibly defective. If you're medical, you think of all eyes are incredibly defective, and conversation is impossible with that type of person. So that's what got me to Jacob Rafelson. And Jacob Rafel had an intuitive scientific sense. He knew what I knew, that if you want prevention, you can't wear a minus lens. And you got to always pass the DMV or do better. That first minus lens kills your vision permanently. Let's not argue about it. That's a scientific fact. If you understand that all eyes are dynamic. If you don't, too bad for you. The first minus lens wipes out your vision permanently. So even Rupa Wong, she's not a design engineer. She doesn't understand the eye that way. And bless her, she knows one thing. You got to keep your kids' eyes at 20 inches. And none of this stuff. How many parents do anything about that? Do they know what's going to happen? They don't. Why? Because they want a medical doctor to fix them when they're down to -1. Medical doctor can't. You know, I appreciate arrogance. I want my ophthalmologist to be arrogant as hell at the subject's medicine. But the subject's, the dynamic behavior of all fundamental eyes, stop being so arrogant. Talk reasonably, rationally, about all eyes as dynamic systems. You can't think that way, you're not going to succeed. So I met Rafelson 60 years ago on the basis of looking for scientific truth, meaning objective, experimental, scientific truth, which does not exist in optometry or ophthalmologists. It does exist for Rupa Wong. So I, of course, thought of my immediate relatives, and they're college educated, and they kept their eyes at 20 inches, so they kept their 20/20 positive refraction if they actually measured it. Even so, college educated, so naive, they believe things. That's natural, they believe things. They believe that medical people are all perfect and know everything perfectly, even when there's a huge gap in the understanding. So I understood that gap. I understood myself too, as doing something like that. And of course, nobody stops a kid from doing that. That's about 4 inches. 4 inches minus 10 diopters. If you did that for 8 hours, your average accommodation would be minus 5 diopters. That's a control system. Control systems go down when you do that. They're controlling to the accommodation signal. But if you don't have that training, you're not going to understand any of it. So when we talk about prevention, so 60 years, 1966, I met Rafelson. Rafelson did not quit. He knew there was a problem. He knew the problem was the person himself, not Rafelson. Rafelson tried to help, but it's impossible. Helping ignorant people is impossible. You have a minus lens that works, Prevention is impossible. So who do you talk to? I gave up talking to most people. So in an attempt to help my relatives, minus 7 doctors or so, cataract surgery got me to 2060. Now, who's going to do the right thing? It's going to be me. I'm going to save my vision. I'm sorry, I can't help you at all. Your vision's permanently lost when you start with that minus lens. Don't come to me and complain. I would present this concept to engineers entering a 4-year college when they're 2040 for full measurement control. They may or may not take prevention seriously, but if they do what I'm doing, they would succeed by making all refractive measurements themselves. It takes more time to do that correctly. I certainly knew it after the cataract surgery. So 60 years of Rayfus trying to do something. Done a lot of good, but he's talking to ignorant people, the public, the patient. That's hopeless, just hopeless. Don't even bother. I don't, except for my relatives. I have no idea what they think about. They think like, oh, nearsightedness, that's a medical problem. And then the arrogance comes in. For a person like, what was his name, Kugler, Lance Kugler, is going to fix everything with the LASIK for everybody. So it's now 60 years later, and what has happened? 4 or 5 billion myopic people. Once you start with a minus lens, you're part of the myopic crowd. There's no recovery. I don't know what gets through to you. I assume nothing. I assume I'm wasting my time basically talking to you. Probably so. Nor do I blame the optometrists. Their business is not helping you with prevention. The only person who can do that correctly is Rupa and her children. Now, reading at 20 inches will do it. And a plus lens will do it also. My friend Antonio Medina had his kids wearing a plus. I still don't know what they thought about it, but they kept her 20/20. They've got to be about 40 years old or so. Be curious to find out what they thought about it, but they wore the plus lens. Yeah, my sister's kids are now on the order of 60 years old. And of course, they kept their 20/20 because they didn't do this. If there was one job to do, that would group along keeping their kids from doing that. That's not guaranteed success, but making your own refractive measurements, as I do it, is success. And I've been doing it 15 years. I like to read, but I wear a plus when I read. And I think that only prevention is possible now after 120 years. So what will life be like 120 years from now? I don't know. I don't know you. Probably you don't want to do anything. You don't want to do anything like drastic, like keeping kids on nose off the page. Heaven no. Even Rupa Wong addresses that issue. And she's trying to browbeat kids into getting their nose off the page. If you're an engineer, you don't browbeat the engineer to get his nose off the page. If he understands control systems, he's going to just understand the concept, the primary eye concept, which is totally ignored in optometry and ophthalmology. To them, that doesn't exist. A mathematical model for the completely normal eye does not exist because they don't want it to exist. They want to sell you minus lenses, magical ortho-K, which don't produce anything other than a good income. Sorry, I'm sarcastic. But Jake Rayfus didn't get paid. You don't get paid for helping with people with prevention that they don't want. $0, 0 cents, nothing. So please don't expect to pay anybody for prevention because they don't want to talk to you about it. I see no future at all for the prevention. I really don't, the way the situation is today. Maybe you have a better idea. I don't know. Let's hear it. Let's talk. I only hope you still have 2040 where prevention might be possible for you. Add your own commentary, and thank you.